Tottenham update. There's a few transfer stories to actually talk about today that's doing the rounds in the press. And Calcio Mercato are claiming that Juventus have identified Destiny Udogie as a possible replacement for Andrea Cambiasso, who could be leaving Juventus this summer for around 40 million euros.
I'll take that.
Yeah, I mean, would you listen to offers for Destiny with the situation with his injuries and stuff?
I would.
You really would?
And unfortunately so. He is so injury prone. He can't seem to get ahead of it.
He's so young, though.
I know he's so young, but I think it depends what the offer is. I'm not saying...
Like 40 million?
Yeah, I would listen to it. I think maybe I'd push it somewhere between 45 and 50 if someone's willing to pay that. But if we can get him, sell him and get a replacement... And look, Udogie fully fit is a 70, 80 million pound fullback. The reality is... he just can't stay fit. He's got big hamstring issues, and it seemed like even recently he comes back 3 games later, he's gone again for another month. It's a massive issue, and I think at the very least we should be planning for him not to be our first choice in a sense that we should be signing a first choice level left back to compete with him. I would rather keep him around and see if we can get ahead of these hamstring issues and probably have him as, I think at the moment, second choice until he proves his fitness to someone else. But if there is an offer on the table, a decent offer, I would listen to it. Unfortunately, I think we're at that stage. Unless, when he comes back in a month's time, he can prove he can stay fit. But then again, he kind of did last season a bit. He came back, March time, and stayed fit for the rest of the season. Although I think he was being managed for a lot of it for the Europa League games. So you got to take that into account. But it's just never gone away, has it? Albeit, in his first season, he did play, I think, 30 games or 28 league games. So he was all right in that first season. But last season, he still had an injury in that first season. Last season, injury ravaged badly. I don't know how many league games he played, but wasn't a lot. And this season, it's been very similar, hasn't it?
So... yeah, 28 games, 25 games and 13. It's not the worst in the world. 25 games last season and 28 the year before. So not too different in terms of the 2 seasons that he has spent here. Only 13 this season. I would keep him around, to be honest, because I think, he could flourish into a real top-class left-back if he's not already. And I think, at 23 years of age, you can get over these injury problems. You really can. So I would... try and avoid it, and like you say, just sign a left back that can compete with him, that is just as good as him or better than him for that left back spot. So you have 2 of them fighting out. So yeah, I think the best course of action should be to try and keep him around, to be honest, because I think with the amount of football that he's played, I know he's had a lot of injuries, but he still played a significant part of the first 2 seasons that he was here.
We see him when he's at his best. He's phenomenal when he's in full flight. There are very few in the league, I believe, who are better than him in that position. So I would, in a perfect world, keep him. I'm just saying, if there is a big offer on the table, I would look at it.
All right, next up, Team Talk are reporting that Newcastle, Tottenham and Aston Villa have joined Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool and Manchester City and Manchester United in chasing Bournemouth's 19-year-old French forward Elie Junior Kroopy, who's had a phenomenal season for a breakout year in the Premier League. Like I mentioned, 19 years of age. What a finish this guy has on him. Can play all across the front 3 as well. We'll obviously know Tell and Odegaard and these kind of guys really well for his time in the French under-21 team. Obviously, there's a lot of teams chasing him. Could Spurs offer him maybe more guaranteed playing time?
You would think so. The problem is, what do we bring him in for? Is he to be our number 9? Because I think he's more of a shadow striker, kind of Julian Alvarez kind of player. So I think he's best when he plays off someone. I think he looks best for Bournemouth when he's like playing off Evan Nilsson. I think that's so they kind of facilitate that. Now we have at the moment Xavi, Kulusevski potentially coming back, and Maddison there. So how can you fit all of them and a Kroopy into the team? I think that would be a struggle, but I do think he's a phenomenal talent. I think he's one of those who's a star in the making. The way he's impacted the Premier League at 19 is phenomenal. He at some point he reminds me of a Julian Alvarez. At some point he reminds me of like a Michael Owen kind of striker, like very nippy in the box. He's got exceptional finishing. I think his size can deceive you. I think he's such a great talent. I wouldn't say no to him. I would love to sign him. It's just all about the dynamic, who our next manager is, how do they fit him in. I could see him very much in a Poch system working like a Dele Alli kind of player. If whether it be a 3-5-2 in a front two, or maybe Dele playing off like Dele plays off the striker. But it's about how we could fit someone like him in when we have Maddison and Xavi, or do we play him as a number 9? But I do have worries about him in certain games as a number 9 physically. I think there'll be certain games he'll be fine as a number 9, but I think there'll also be certain games where you just need that physicality, and whether he could handle that. Because I think with Bournemouth, they played just this kamikaze kind of chaos football where there's lots of spaces everywhere, and he exploits that. Whereas at Tottenham, we struggle to do that. So that's the only reservation, but I'll definitely sign him if we can. I think he's phenomenal. I really like him.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the physicality aspect, I mean, the more and more he plays in the Premier League and the older he gets, that's only going to get better over time. So
could he be like an Aguero kind of player, maybe?
I think, in a few years down the line, I don't think that physicality aspect is going to be an aspect. I think he'll acclimatise really well. And he's acclimatised well so far in this Bournemouth team, and I think he's just going to get better and better and better. I think this guy has got such a high ceiling, such talent about him. I think Spurs should be doing as much as they can to try and get him through the door, to be honest.
For you, what's his best position? Would you sign him to be our starting 9?
I think if you had him and Dom Solanke sharing that 9 role for next season, is that good enough to be like a fully concealed top 4 team? I'm not so sure, but I think he can grow into that role. I wouldn't mind him like playing back up to Dominic Solanke, like them two being the number 9 for next season. But you probably would still want one more in there. The beauty about Kroopy is, never mind what his best position is, he's so versatile and can play many positions. So he'll be a value to the squad no matter in what aspect we bring him in.
Yeah, from what I've seen, he definitely looks better centrally. I don't know, I haven't seen him play too much on the wing for Bournemouth, but he doesn't seem to be a kind of winger. He's
played a couple of games there.
He's definitely a goal scorer, though, isn't he? That's what he is, I think. Who sniffs a chance in and around the penalty area, and he takes a lot of snapshots, doesn't he? And he catches people out.
And that's what this team is missing desperately, man. We just don't have enough goal scorers in this team, and we need to be adding. That's got to be the key area that we got to add this summer is goal scorers, man.
How much do you reckon Kroopy costs? 1 good year in the Prem at 19, all of a sudden your value shoots up, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think he's gonna cost a pretty penny, 60 million or something like that.
Well, considering Semenyo was 65, wasn't it? And he was on. He
went for 12 million to Bournemouth.
You're looking at the bare minimum, I'd say 50 at the bare minimum.
Yeah, I think between 50 and 60 million around that ballpark figure.
Might even be more.
I think he's worth that kind of ballpark figure.
Like right now, he's 50, 60. Let's say he gets another 5 goals between now and the end of the season. How many goals would he be on?
Guy scored 8 Premier League goals this season.
So if he gets to 15, I mean, that's doubling his tally. So let's say he gets like 13, 14 at 19 years of age. All of a sudden, you're looking at a 70 million probably pound player there.
You're looking at our forward line, right? Take Richarlison out of it. He's probably scored more than all of them combined.
Yeah,
it's
mad,
crazy.
Yeah, our forward line just hasn't got the goals, has it?
Yeah. But anyway, that is Kroopy. Let me know in the comment section below, would you take Kroopy at Spurs, and what kind of money do you think he will cost in the summer transfer window? Christian Falk, Bayern Munich journalist, is reporting that Chelsea and Tottenham are interested in signing Bayern Munich South Korean centre-back Kim Min-jae. Tottenham's plan to sign a new centre-back next summer are likely to depend heavily on who they appoint as their next manager. I mean, going into this summer window, with a potential return for Vuskovic, I know there's talks about him going back to Hamburg, but unless one's going, of Romero and Van der Ven, is there a desperate need for a centre-back to come in?
What, at all?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think we're probably going to have to get rid of one of Dragoshin or Dan. So, you're saying if Vuskovic comes in?
Yeah.
Probably not, but I think one of them will be going. That's my gut.
Thing is, if Kim Min-jae is going to come in, that surely suggests one of Romero and Van der Ven are leaving.
For sure.
Kim Min-jae ain't coming in to play second fiddle to them two.
100%. There was also, who else we linked with? There was Senesi as well, but obviously if we want to bring him, we probably need him regardless because we just need a backup to Van der Ven. So I think Senesi makes a lot of sense in that sense.
Does he play on the right or the left? Kim Min-jae, it's the right, isn't it?
I think he's on the right. I think he can play both. I think for Korea he's played a lot on the left. Because I think they've got a right footer there. They play with him, but I think he predominantly plays on the right. But similar with Maguire, he can kind of play both sides. He definitely reminds me of Maguire, how he is.
Yeah.
I like him a lot. I think he's done, when he's been on the pitch for Bayern, I haven't seen too many problems with him. I think Tuchel didn't like him that much, but Kompany seems to like him. I think he's been all right, but Is he good enough to replace Romero van der Ven? I don't think he's an upgrade on either of those two, to be honest. But I think we are going to struggle to get an upgrade on them, and I think we can do a lot worse than Kim Min-jae.
That's the thing. Like, let's say Romero is going this summer, right? For argument's sake, who can you get that's better than Kim Min-jae to come in?
Yeah, it'll be a struggle to get someone better than him.
He's probably the best available, if he is available. That is
yeah, definitely better, as the commentator, better than Dragoshin and Danso for sure. So I think you could maybe as well find a better level of him, potentially. Obviously, from set pieces, he'll be a massive threat as well. So I'm not against it. Obviously, if I'm talking right now, do I want him in? The answer would be no. I'd rather Romero and Van der Ven stay. But if one of them was to go, I think we could do a lot worse.
Absolutely. And last but not least, this was a report from David Ornstein over the weekend saying that Tottenham rebuffed inquiries from rivals for Lucas Bergvall in January. Chelsea and Aston Villa made contact to check the situation while looking to strengthen the midfield amid 20-year-old's reduced role. But Tottenham's clear plan was not to consider any exit for Lucas Bergvall. Obviously, we know that Bergvall was not being profiled properly by Thomas Frank, and he was filling in here, then everywhere but his best position, which was just nuts. When you have a player of this kind of ability, of what he showed last season, getting Spurs as player of the season, and then not to be played in his preferred and best role under Thomas Frank, I thought was just complete nonsense from Frank. And do you think Bergvall was looking at the situation where if Frank stays, he's like, I might have to consider my options here if Frank's going to keep me playing like this?
I don't think so. I don't think he was considering his options. I think Tottenham has been good for him. I think since coming here, he's developed a lot. I still think he does have a lot of developing to do. I think on the ball, he's clearly phenomenal. The way he drives with the ball, I think his ball striking's great. I think he's got good passing on him. I think the thing he definitely has to work on is sometimes his passing can be inconsistent and a bit sloppy on occasion because sometimes he's rushing. I also think out of possession, he can be a bit all over the place. He does I'm talking about positional wise. I think he's very good at using his strength, flying into tackles, and he's one of those players where if you're maybe like a casual fan watching him, he'll put in some crunching challenge and you'll be like, yeah, he really puts in a shift. And I'm not saying he doesn't. My point would be, I think positionally, sometimes he gets, I'm not saying a lot of the time actually, he gets caught out of position and he all of a sudden we're very open in the middle and he gets run past. And I think, and it's not because he's lazy, I think it's just a learning when and where to be. I think especially when we were under Ange and we were relying on him a lot to play centre mid. He was brilliant on the ball, but the problem was off the ball, we just kept getting open up because he didn't know where to be. He was kept getting out of position, and I think when he was pressing, he wasn't pressing at the right times and stuff. And I think that's probably part of the reason why Frank hasn't played him there, because he's always looking at thinking, is he ready out of possession to do what I need him to do? I would argue you play him there so he does get that experience, and you once he gets used to the out of possession stuff and he becomes more reliable, then we'll see him in that position more to a better effect. But Frank's solution was, we're going to play him, we're not going to give him that responsibility, we're going to play him on the wing, we're going to play him in the 10 so he can just concentrate on his on the ball qualities. But the problem is his on the ball qualities for me aren't suited to being a number 10 in a higher up position. He likes to run from deep into the spaces. He's very good at charging into the space. So that's why he looks a lot better picking up the ball from deep than he does in the number 10 position. I also don't think he has the kind of cuteness you need in the number 10 position to pick locks and stuff like that. I think he likes bigger spaces and stuff like that. So for me, Frank profiled him incorrectly and was playing in the wrong position. Maybe there was a case of, if it was this to continue, maybe he felt like, okay, maybe I'm better somewhere else. But I think from Tottenham's point of view, for me, what they should have been thinking was Frank might not be here towards the end of the season. So we might as well think Bergvall's going to outlast Frank anyway. So I would hold off on any offers. At the very worst, maybe consider putting him out on loan if he's really not happy. But I would never sell him. I think he's too big of a talent. It'll be crazy.
Who the hell do Aston Villa and Chelsea think they are, trying to get Lucas Bergvall in January? That's crazy talk. Surely, they must have been willing to pay big money, because they weren't going to expect Spurs to let him go for 30-40 million.
No,
surely.
no chance.
Who do they think they are?
Unless they're just testing the waters. I think we've done that, haven't we, with other clubs where we're thinking, can we do something if he's out of favour? But yeah, we're shameless. And they're trying to do the same thing. They're just testing the waters, seeing what they're probably looking at the situation thinking Bergvall's been on the bench quite a bit. He's been played out of position. Does Frank fancy him? Is there an opportunity there? If they're, let's say, if they're of the belief that we're trusting in Frank and we're backing him and he's going to be our long-term manager, they're looking at that situation thinking, okay, if that's going to be the case, maybe Frank would be willing to let him go. Look, we were willing to let Johnson go. I know it's a different situation, but Palace tested the waters, didn't they? They said, look, 35 million, are you willing to do it? And we were like, you know what, yeah, because Frank actually doesn't fancy him. And we've now heard from reports that Frank was one of the main ones pushing it because he wasn't in his plans. So he was really pushing Spurs to sell if they could. So maybe they thought, we'll test the waters. Does Frank really fancy Bergvall? Is there an opportunity there to get him out of Tottenham at a time where, you know, for me, it would have been a mistake. But maybe sometimes timing is everything in football. And maybe the timing could have worked out. But thankfully, Tottenham stood strong. And I think that was very much the right decision. It would have been a massive mistake to let him go.
Can you imagine the fan reaction if we would have let Bergvall go to like Chelsea? God, there'll be riots on the street, seriously. Like, our player of the year last year. So it would have been that Frank would have come in and in January sold our top goal scorer and our player of the year from the previous season. But that would not have gone down well.
You know, it's a bit like Kudus with us. It was timing is everything. You know, where the club's at, the club are willing to sell him. And obviously he was willing to go at the time. In a different time period, maybe you go back 6 months or a year, West Ham would have been shut the door in our face. It would have been a flat line no. Sometimes timing is everything. And maybe Villa and Chelsea were saying, could the timing work out? But it didn't. Yeah,
absolutely. But thank God it didn't work out, because I swear I would have lost my shit if we would have sold Bergvall to Aston Villa or Chelsea. I really would have.
For sure. But there's one thing for sure now about Bergvall is it has been 2 serious injuries in the last 2 seasons. So that's something we have to look at as well.
Yeah. I would say that looking at Lucas Bergvall and look at the misprofiling from Thomas Frank, I think that is something that Pochettino is just so strong at in terms of profiling his players and getting the best out of them in certain positions. And I think Lucas Bergvall would thrive so much under Mauricio Pochettino. I think he would probably be one of the biggest winners in this squad under Pochettino, in my opinion.
For sure. 100%. I think the way his willingness and his eagerness and his energy, I think Poch will love it. And he's got the technical ability to match it. I think, as I say, he needs some refining. He's not like the perfect midfielder yet, but a guy has a serious amount of ability.
Which, at 20 years old, it's very few that are the perfect player at that point. But look, that is your Tottenham update for today. Let me know in the comment section below your thoughts regarding all the news stories that we have brought to you today.